Good morning and welcome to the April 1st meeting of Burbank Glendale Passenger Airport Authority. May we have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Brown. Commissioner Adams.
Here.
Commissioner Garpetian.
Here.
Commissioner Tornick.
Here.
Commissioner Sinanian.
Here.
Commissioner Devine.
Here.
Commissioner Wiggins.
Here.
Commissioner Madison. Commissioner Selby.
Here.
Thank you.
And today's Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Commissioner Tornick.
Please rise, face the flag. Put your right hand over your heart. Repeat after me. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. What's next on the agenda? Approval of the agenda? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? And this item passes. Next item is public comment. Do we have any public comments today?
Yes, we do. We have Stacy Slickta.
Stacy Slickta? Good morning.
Good morning. Secret Chavez Day today, so I brought my friend. I want to thank you again for taking the time to hear me and to hear my comments. Last time I was a little bit long-winded. I didn't get to go through everything. And I also want to thank you all for all of your comments and your responses to the packet that I had given you with all the documentation and information about the planes flying over our children's schools. And I want to preface that with, I got none, April Fools. None of you had responded to any of the information that I had sent to you. I was nice enough to give you my email address, and I made it very clear that if you had any questions or concerns about what was going on at any of the schools, that you'd be more than welcome to reach out to me, and none of you did. So to me, that shows that once again, you guys are putting a blind eye to what's going on in our community. And these are kids, for heaven's sakes. My son goes to Carpenter, and my son, he goes to Carpenter, and that school is getting hit on a daily basis. I gave you the information. I gave you the documents. I gave you every single flight that went over that school in the month of January. And once again, what did I get? Crickets. Absolutely nothing. And to me, that shows me that your passion and your drive is to make this Burbank Airport larger and bigger and for the benefit of the companies and the community that surrounds the airport, not the ones that are getting hit with the airplanes. And I know that there's a couple of you that have made points saying that, yes, the flight path has changed, and yes, other communities are getting hit with this, but we're not getting any feedback. And I'm representing tens of thousands of children who are getting hit with this on a daily basis. LAUSD is getting involved. They have done several site visits at these schools, and they're wondering, well, what is the Burbank Airport doing? Well, I've made it very clear. I've spoken to you once. I've given you lots of information. And what do I get? What I'm getting right now. Looks the other way, looking at other things, concerns in another direction. If you're not concerned about this, let us know, because we'll take a different route and let everybody be very aware that the Burbank Airport Commission doesn't really care about children getting airplanes flown over their heads on a daily basis, getting pollutants dropped on them, test scores dropping in communities. And Leo wants you to see his shirt. He loves airplanes, but he doesn't love them flying over his school where his classes get interrupted, the teachers have to stop because of these airplanes. And this information was in your packet. You got letters and pictures from students. You got letters from teachers and from parents. And what did I get? Crickets. Nothing. No response whatsoever. And don't think I'm going to be quiet about this either. There are parents that are very concerned. There are students that are very concerned. And there are other children with me today, and there'll be more children the next time because they don't like it either. They don't like having to stop their PE class because 4 airplanes are going over their flight path over their school. So they can't be playing PE outside because they can't hear their coach and their instructor. They don't like it when they're outside planting their plants with their science teacher and they can't hear the science teacher telling them the growth process of a plant.
You have 1 minute.
So once again, what are you going to do about it? You know about it. I've given you time. And if your response is no response at all, please give me the common courtesy to respond to my email and say, this is not a concern of the Burbank Airport Commission. We have other things to worry about and other things to do, rather than responding to a concerned parent and parent community. And I've also emailed the email address that was given to us wrong at the last meeting. So I would appreciate it if we could get responses to those as well. Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to your responses.
Thank you.
Next, we
far
have,
from doing nothing and not responding to this issue, ever since the flight paths have changed, this has been a focal point of this commission's activities, and we've really gone out of our way to do everything within our ability to address the issue. Unfortunately, this is not within our capabilities. This is not within our jurisdiction. This is not within our authority. But we are working with the FAA. We are working with all the concerned parties, trying to address this issue, and it's just not something that the airport regulates. It's an FAA issue, and again, we're very persistent, very consistent, very systematic about our approach, and we'll continue doing so. Unfortunately, the results are not instantaneous. They're not happening right now. They're not happening at this moment, which is the type of result that the residents that are impacted are hoping for. But we will continue to do our best. We will continue working with the FAA and making sure that they understand the type of impact that the flight path changes have had on residents, on schools, anyone that's concerned. Yeah.
I'd
Ms.
like to
Devine?
make a comment. I'd like for Mrs. Slichta to send that to me. I don't remember getting that email, receiving that email. So if you can resend that.
I gave packets to everyone the last time I spoke with all of this information. You didn't get that?
I didn't. I
No.
wasn't here, so I didn't.
Well, I gave her 30 copies,
Okay.
so they didn't get distributed?
I don't think
yes, they were distributed.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
So they
By
went
email.
into the abyss in your office. I'd be happy to send you a copy if you could email me, and I'd be happy to send it to you directly. So
Commissioner Garpetian?
Yes, thank you. There was a group of citizens from Studio City that they attended our meetings, and there was a meeting set between the airport, the citizens groups, and the FAA. Has that meeting taken place, or if so, please include the speaker as well, so they would know what's going on with the whole issue, because it's not only one area or one school, it's the entire area that it's complaining that the path changed, and now the airplanes are over their neighborhoods overall. So if you can elaborate on that, I would appreciate it.
with all due respect, I'm not just talking about
I'm
one
sorry.
school. I'm talking about multiple.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Commissioners, the meeting that had been scheduled with some residents from Studio City, FAA, and the airlines did not happen. The FAA had received a letter from our congressional people indicating that they needed the FAA to look into the impact of the changing flight tracks, that they recognize this as a regional issue, not just from the Burbank Airport, and requested that the FAA address those issues. And it is a regional issue. We also have Van Nuys Airport. There are some impacts from flight tracks that are occurring into and out of LAX. And so roundtables, regional roundtables that would include all of the airports have been recommended to the FAA. They intend to initiate an environmental assessment of the issue that would include public hearings. We are now in the process of trying to determine the schedule of that, when the FAA plans to begin that process, points of contact that we can have with the FAA as we move forward. So the issue is clearly at the table right now for the FAA. We're just waiting to hear when they plan to begin this whole process. We have had discussions with our congressional people in Washington about this. Clearly, they feel strongly about it, as the letter was indicating to the FAA. The FAA has felt that rather than having multiple individual meetings that could potentially occur as they go forward, they have made the decision that they will do the environmental assessment, they will have the public hearings on the regional basis as a better way of approaching this issue. But it is certainly not something that is being ignored. We are moving forward with the FAA as we can. As President Sinanian said, we are limited into what we can do, but we do keep in contact with the FAA and are endeavoring right now to get an understanding of their schedule and the points of contact from air traffic. That portion, that division of the FAA will be responsible for this.
Is this information available on our website as to what steps did we take? Because if there's nothing out there, the misconception out there is that we're not doing anything, although we've done everything in our power to at least push FAA to have a meeting, but that didn't even take place. So
we can certainly put something on the website. I think people have understood and recognized that the Commission has sent 2 letters. The Airport Authority has sent 2 letters to the FAA identifying that there has been a change to the flight tracks, there's been a change to the impact of noise. But we will certainly look at putting something on the website that will identify exactly the steps that the Airport Authority has taken.
thank you.
And I just want to sort of accentuate the situation with setting up the meeting, the Community Airlines FAA meeting. It's not going forward, not for the lack of our trying. We've done our part to bring the parties together. We organized the meeting. We initially had commitments to the meeting, but they're not moving forward because the FAA does not want to have individual meetings. They want to have regional meetings, and they want to analyze the issue more. Is that a good sort of summation of what happened? Okay, thank you.
Yep. But however, we do have our representatives, Feinstein, Harris, Adam Schiff, who are trying to institute community noise roundtable. And that's for the community, and that's for all of these people that are having issues to attend. Is there an update on that?
That's the schedule that we're trying to identify right now. That will be part of the whole process. We will have meetings with the FAA, the regional roundtables and the EA. I mean, they'll be going forward on a parallel basis. We just don't know yet from the FAA exactly what their schedule is.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, and
Yes,
and
Mr.
I want
Wiggins?
to reemphasize the fact, because both of you kind of took the brunt of it about when are we going to get the meetings with the airlines, when are we going to get the meeting with the FAA, and I know that both of you did your best and had a commitment at one point in time from the airlines and the FAA to sit down with 2 or 3 of the residents that were being impacted by this. And the FAA basically said, well, we changed our mind. So it's not for your lack of trying that the situation is what it is. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other public speakers?
Yes, we have Kim Biddle.
Hello.
Hello, good morning.
I'm going to look down just so I can make sure I don't skip anything, but I did want to say that although we appreciate what efforts have been made, the statement that this problem is not being ignored and it's being looked at is a dishonest statement, because the FAA, in framing their environmental assessment, specifically worded it to exclude what they call Southern Metroplex changes. And what they say we're all experiencing now and the group that I'm with has over 1,000 people that are members. We're experiencing it now, not proposed procedures. So I would say it actually is being ignored and purposefully ignored in the way that the argument's being framed. So I want to start with some numbers that I think are pretty important. According to the Southern California Association of Governments, an FAA study concluded that between 50 and 55 hourly operations can be conducted at Burbank Airport. The maximum airfield capacity has been estimated at 12 million annual passengers. Hollywood Burbank Airport broke the 5 million passenger mark at the end of 2018, the highest the count has ever been since before the recession a decade ago. The airport reported about 5.2 million passengers for the year, up 11% from 2017. So, according to those numbers, Burbank is operating at less than 50% potential capacity, which for me, suffering under these paths, is a terrifying number, regardless of the replacement terminal that everyone here wants to build. So let's also compare January 2019 to the same period 2018. Air carrier operations increased 7.53%, and from 2018 to the same month 2017, air carrier operations increased 12.22%. So Burbank continues to grow by leaps and bounds every month. Great for you guys, not so good for us. So let me tell you why I stand here today. I'm here because your airport, along with the FAA, has suddenly shifted the historical flight path over tens of thousands of us in Toluca Lake, Studio City, Sherman Oaks, and along the Mulholland Corridor and environmentally protected Santa Monica Mountains. And this new path is at shockingly low and unsafe altitudes. A mere 2,400 feet AGL over Carpenter School and thousands of homes more than 5 miles from this airport. But it's even lower, and one would argue criminally low, in Toluca Lake. So I'm here to make a public record of what did you know and when did you know it. This is a standard applied to those whose products cause harm. Think big tobacco and smoking, lead and asbestos manufacturers, or football and athletics and brain injuries. Your product is aircraft operations, and the harm you cause comes from not just the noise, but also the numerous other health impacts. There are many scientific studies documenting the fact that exposure to noise causes physical effects on the human body. I'm quoting, "Airports in the U.S. have gradually been transitioning to automated flight systems. These systems generate new flight paths over populated areas. While they can improve flight efficiency, the increased noise associated with these novel flight patterns potentially pose serious health threats to the overflown communities." Columbia University School of Public Health, August 2018. And I would add that in that case that was studied, the FAA was forced to change the path. So let's talk about air quality, especially when jets fly under 3,000 AGL. There are ultrafine particles produced by aircraft that cross biological boundaries. Less than 1,000th the width of human hair, they go deep in the lungs, make their way into the bloodstream, and spread to the brain, heart, and other critical organs. UFPs have the potential to aggravate heart and lung conditions, including asthma, leading to inflammation, the development of blocked arteries, and cardiovascular disease. Heavy metals are in jet engine exhaust. Long-term exposure causes severe irritation of the eyes, the skin, upper respiratory tract, persistent inflammations of the trachea and bronchi, pulmonary edema, and systemic poisoning. Other common exhaust pollutants are also present, including carbon monoxide, hydrocarbons, nitrogen dioxide, etc., and all of it more dangerous given the low altitudes at which your planes are being flown over our community. Increased noise, that causes stress. Large studies at almost 90 U.S. airports show increase in cardiovascular disease and stroke. Meta-analysis shows aircraft noise leads to increased levels of cortisol, including hypertension and high blood pressure.
You
and
have
in some
1 minute.
cases, lowered immune response, mental illness, and obesity. And it's worse at night. Sleep disruption, including moodiness, irritability, reduced attention span, reduced concentration levels, slower reaction speeds. As of today, you're on notice that your product is damaging our community and hurting our children and our families. The Washington Post had an article that noise is the new secondhand smoke, and your product and the FAA's product of NextGen and aircraft operations at low altitudes is causing us unacceptable harm. This new jet superhighway, this next-gen path, at ridiculously low altitudes over our homes and schools is utterly unacceptable. You wouldn't live with it, and you shouldn't ask us to. And everyone sitting here that's saying that they've done so much can dig a little deeper and do a lot more. So I'm requesting for my group, Upper LA, to have a meeting with you and other Burbank officials to discuss what can be done now that you know exactly what you're doing to all of us.
Thank you.
All right, and I also want to say that the EA, like I said, is only being for proposed procedures, not current conditions. So we're requesting that you and the FAA, along with other community groups, discuss what can be done during the study.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question, Mr. Mayor.
Please, go ahead.
I have a question. You referred to a survey and a study that was done and said that FAA was forced to change its flight path. Can you send that information to us? I want to know who forced FAA to change the flight path. That's very important for us to know. And how long did it take for that survey to start until the finish, until the flight path was changed? I want to know from start to finish, how long did it take? I think that timing is very important for
Okay.
everyone to know, because when you deal with government agencies, nothing happens overnight. So I want to see if I can get that information from you.
Yes, and I think the critical thing that we have not been able to get access to is the actual flight track data, the altitudes and things that the airport has. So where the planes are flying, we all have our air noise buttons and we can do it over our homes.
No, that's not what I'm saying. The survey
No, I
that
know,
you
but I'm saying
referred
it's
to,
based
yeah.
on flight data done by Columbia. There were residents that got their airport, the Port Authority, to produce that data, and then the Columbia School of Public Health did the study. So I actually know someone who would be willing, very reputable researcher, to do it, but we can't provide them any data because nobody will give it to us, and that's part of the problem. But I will, if you tell me where to send it, I'm happy to send you the.
You can send it to the airport and they can distribute it to us.
Okay.
They can get you the information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any comments from my colleagues? I hate to harp on the same issue over and over again, but this airport did not determine the flight path. Had nothing to do with the changes. We're very happy with the paths that existed before. FAA decided to change them, so we're not participants in that process, and that's the problem. Okay.
One more question
Yes.
from Scott.
Please go ahead.
Was the SCAG report indicate that our capacity is 12 million passengers?
There's a report a few years ago that they had made the maximum capacity possible out of all airports in the area. Excuse me, and that showed that they predicted a 12 million passenger capacity way out in the future, like 2035, I believe.
From this airport?
They said that the potential for that capacity, but there was a lot of assumptions in that study that SCAG made that aren't exactly what I call practical.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have our own estimate of what our capacity is?
No, we do not.
But prior to the recession, we were up to 6 million?
Prior to the recession, you had 6 million passengers and much more flight activity.
Much more flight
in terms of
activity.
aircraft operations. What we have now is below that. We're still recovering to pre-recession levels. The studies that we have, the forecasts we have, are based on the FAA terminal area forecasts, which are part of the environmental studies we've taken to date.
And even at 6 million, so pre-recession, even at 6 million, we were not at capacity, correct? So
That
it's
is correct.
something
There
over
was-
6 million.
There was still more that could possibly occur.
Okay.
But
Thank
there are constraints that, for example, airspace, what can come in, what can come out, what is available on the ground to put aircraft and keep them safely separated from each other. The operations of your GA operators as well has to be mixed in with the commercial carriers.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Atanaka. Any other speakers? Okay, thank you very much. Let's move on to the next item. Item 5, presentations. Item 5A, Airport Authority Police Officer of the Year.
Chief Scavano will be up to make the presentation for the Police Officer of the Year.
Morning, Commissioners. I'm going to have Frank Litterini, Officer Frank Litterini, walk up here, please. Frank's been on the department now going on 3 years. Came to us from South Pasadena, where he did 27 years and was a detective when he left there. He basically has in his DNA the servant mentality that we look for. He has a contagious personality where his enthusiasm is contagious and it spreads to everyone else. He treats everyone with respect, solves problems every day. We constantly get letters on something that he did, went out of his way to take care of someone or solve a problem that they had, and that's really what we're looking for. And plus, he's got a really good sense of humor, and he keeps everybody happy, and that's really a good thing. So I'm going to present what we do. It's probably different than the fire department. Is we have a medal that we present for Officer of the Year, and then we have a ribbon that we wear on the uniform. So I'm just going to go ahead and present this right now. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Well, that's hard to follow. I just wanted to say thank you. I think this is the greatest police department ever, and I think all police departments should run like this one does. And that is due to our leadership. Thank you, and thank you.
Nice. Thank you.
I noticed there's a cell phone up here.
Oh, one of the ladies may have left it here. They just left.
Oh, boy.
Oh, thank you, Chief. Good police work.
Lost it back.
Observation.
Always on duty, right?
Yeah. Congratulations, Officer Litterini.
Chief Lanahan will now present the Firefighter of the Year award.
Good morning.
Morning, Chief.
Mayor, President Sinanian, Commissioners, Tom Lanahan, Fire Chief. It is my honor to be here this morning to present the 2018 Burbank, Glendale, Pasadena Airport Authority Fire Department Firefighter of the Year, and that is one Captain Chad Peterson. Come on up, Chad. Chad is a 15-year veteran of the Airport Authority Fire Department, worked his way up through the ranks to become captain. Also very proud that he served our country in the United States Marine Corps as a sergeant. Besides his shift duties, Chad has taken over as our training captain in our training division. And in a period of a little over a year, he had developed a very comprehensive training tracking system that improves our professional standards and our operational abilities of our personnel in our fire department. We have an annual Federal Aviation Regulation Part 139 inspection that inspects our ARF training records. And when the inspectors came out this year, they said, this is a model for other airport fire departments to follow. So fantastic job on that. And just to kind of coincide with what Chief Scavarna was talking about with attitude, you know, we developed our fire department coin in this past year. And the motto on this coin is dedication to service, work ethic, and positive attitude. And Captain Peterson truly exemplifies all three of those characteristics. So very proud today to present Firefighter of the Year to Captain Chad Peterson. We don't do the medals, maybe we should, but we give him a trophy. I mean, all yours, buddy. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Very happy to work here. Proud to be part of this family here at the Hollywood Burbank Airport. I couldn't have done my job to this level without each and every one of the people sitting out there and right here in front of me, and I thank you very much for it.
Thank you. Congratulations. Very well. Next item is the consent calendar. Do we have a motion for approval of the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second.
Any objections? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And this item passes as well. Thank you. Next item is the items for commission approval. 7A, approval of amendment number 2 to the extended maintenance and service agreement for airport noise and operations management system, Brule and Care EMS, Inc.
Mr. Mark Hardiman, your Director of Environmental, will be making the presentation.
Good morning, Commissioner Sinanian.
Good morning.
Fellow Commissioners. Staff comes to the authority this morning seeking your approval that the Executive Director be authorized to enter into Amendment Number 2 with Brule and Care for the extended maintenance and service agreement on the airport's noise monitoring system. The system was acquired 6 years ago following a 1-year warranty period. The authority had an initial 5-year contract for maintenance and services. The contract called for an annual 3% escalation fee or the greater of CPI. So for the last 5-year term, it has been a 3% increase in each of those years. Staff comes to you this morning with a legal committee recommendation to extend that agreement for an additional 5-year term, extending the financial terms verbatim with the existing agreement. In this current year, the 5th year of the agreement, we're paying $99,370 for this service. This new agreement calls for the first year to be a 3% increase to $102,352. This agreement is really where all of the heavy lifting is done with the noise monitoring system. It certainly does take care of maintenance of the various different microphones and components of the system, but it is also the agreement by which Brule and Care acquires the flight tracks from an FAA-approved provider, matches it up with the noise that is recorded in the various different microphones, and so that is paired up to be able to provide accurate information. There is also an extensive suite of diagnostic tools that our department works on regularly in trying to respond to community concerns. I have, for your background, included an excerpt out of our quarterly noise monitoring report that provides a bit of history of the airport's noise monitoring system dating back to the early 1980s, as well as an exhibit B1 that shows the location of each of the noise monitoring devices. Would like to bring your attention to the fact that low on the page, the street Jeffries is called out. That happens to be the street that Luther Burbank Elementary School is located on. That school is one that the Airport Authority sound insulated many years ago. The most current Part 150 study that the Airport Authority performed, the proposed noise contour fell short of Jeffries Avenue. The current measured quarterly noise actually fell even shorter than that forecast. So you can see that there are a number of the historic noise monitor sites that are located even further out beyond the 65 CNEL contour. If you have any questions, I'm available to answer them.
Yes, question, please. Mr. Turner?
Mark, in view of all these discussion in terms of the shifting flight patterns and the noise complaints that are being referenced, I noticed that it appears that the southernmost listening point or monitoring station is 15, which is north of Chandler Boulevard, and presumably that all relates to the 65 CNEL contour. But is there any merit to, in terms of responding to resident complaints, to thinking about expanding the reach of the noise monitoring, not just so much in terms of the 65 decibel standard, but in terms of developing a baseline and understanding whether there are shifts in terms of noise impacts of flights from the airport? Have we considered expanding that network further south?
I saw John lean in.
We've had some recent discussions. I have had some recent discussions with Congressman Schiff about that, whether or not we should look at doing some noise monitoring a little farther out. We also explained that we run our noise lines every 5 years as part of our noise program, just to take into account the changes in the conditions, not only whether or not there are increased flights, but the changes in aircraft. We'll have some discussions with the FAA as far as how we might approach doing what you're talking about, and we'll come back to the commission with a response to that.
Okay. I mean, I just think that I recognize that the primary function of this system is to sort of monitor and define the 65 decibel level, but it just seems to me there's such a level of attention and uncertainty and citizen complaint in terms of what's happening. And I recall when we did our study in terms of the flight patterns, we didn't really have data from the sort of new areas south of the freeway. And so I think that I'm delighted to hear that you discussed that with the congressman, and I think that should come back to the commission.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Tornick. Any other, yes, Mr. Selvage?
Yes. If we wanted to put more microphones further south and over areas where we're now getting complaints, so would we have to ask anybody else's permission to do that if we decide on our own that it would be a good idea?
You need the FAA's approval.
To put in a microphone to...
Otherwise, because you could be running into what they call airport revenue diversion issues, so we need to get their approval where we're putting in monitors and the purpose for it.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the potential areas that we could go to get this is through their environmental assessment that the air traffic organization is undertaking to try to help get this done through the FAA, since they are the approving authority.
Thank you.
Could you define what is an airport revenue divergent, as you stated?
It's using monies that do not have a nexus directly to your own airport.
Okay.
And so when you go beyond, you could get in violation of those rules and regulations.
Okay, so even the monitoring of the noise is something that the FAA closely controls. All right, thank you. Just to point that out. Any other questions? Nope. Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
Could we have a vote, please?
Oh, yes, move approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And this item passes as well. We have commissioner comments next. Any comments from my colleagues? If not, then we have adjournment. So if we have a motion. A second?
A second.
And we're adjourned.